ਤੇ ਰੁੱਖ ਹੁਣ ਬਜਟ ਤੇ ਵੱਲ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਬਜਟ ਸੈਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਦੂਜਾ ਦਿਨ ਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਹਲਚਲ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਸੰਸਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲਾਈਵ ਤਸਵੀਰਾਂ ਦਿਖਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
Scheme for taxation of virtual digital assets. There has been a phenomenal increase in transaction in virtual digital assets. The magnitude and frequency of these transactions have made it imperative to provide for a specific tax regime. Accordingly, for the taxation of virtual digital assets, I propose to provide that any income from transfer of any virtual digital asset shall be taxed at the rate of 30%, 30%. No deduction in respect of any expenditure or allowance shall be allowed while computing such income except cost of acquisition. Further, loss from transfer of virtual digital asset cannot be set off against any other income. Further, in order to capture the transaction details, I also propose to provide for TDS on payment made in relation to transfer of virtual digital asset at the rate of 1% of such consideration above a monetary threshold. Gift of virtual digital asset is also proposed to be taxed in the hands of the recipient. Litigation management to avoid repetitive appeals by the department. It has been observed that a lot of time and resources are consumed in filing of appeals which involve identical issues. Taking forward our policy of sound litigation management, I propose to provide that if a question of law in the case of an assessee is identical to a question of law which is pending in the appeal before a jurisdictional high court or Supreme Court, in any case, the filing of further appeal in the case of this assessee by the department shall be deferred till such a question of law is decided by the jurisdictional high court or the Supreme Court. This will greatly help in reducing the repeated litigation between taxpayer and the department. Taking forward our efforts to further promote the IFSC, I hereby propose to provide that income of a non-resident from offshore derivative instruments or over-the-counter derivatives issued by an offshore banking unit, income from royalty and interest on account of lease of ship, and income received from portfolio management services in IFSC shall be exempt from tax subject to specified conditions. Rationalization of surcharge. In the globalized business world, there are several work contracts whose terms and conditions mandatorily require formation of a consortium. The members in the consortium are generally companies. In such cases, the income of these AOPs has to suffer a graded surcharge up to 37%, which is a lot more than surcharge on the individual companies. Accordingly, I propose to cap the surcharge of these AOPs at 15%, 15%. Further, the long-term capital gains on listed equity shares, units, etc., are liable to maximum surcharge of 15%, while other long-term capital gains are subjected to a graded surcharge which goes up to 37%. I propose to cap the surcharge on long-term capital gains arising on transfer of any type of assets at 15%. This step will give a boost to startup community, and along with my proposal on the extended tax benefits to manufacturing companies and startups, reaffirms our commitment to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Clarification in relation to health and education cess as business expenditure. The income tax is not an allowable expenditure for computation of business income. This includes tax as well as surcharges. The health and education cess is imposed as an additional surcharge on the taxpayer for funding specific government welfare programs. However, some courts have allowed health and education cess as business expenditure, which is against the legislative intent. To reiterate the legislative intent, I propose to clarify that any surcharge or cess on income and profits is not allowable as business expenditure. Deterrence against tax evasion. Honourable Speaker, sir, presently there is ambiguity regarding set-off of brought forward loss against undisclosed income detected in search operations. It has been observed that in many cases where undisclosed income or suppression of sales, etc., is detected, payment of tax is avoided by setting off of losses. In order to bring certainty and to increase deterrence among tax evaders, I propose to provide that no set-off of any loss shall be allowed against undisclosed income detected during search and survey operations.